This is what 52 ears of corn looks like. And today I'm going to show you 5 ways of preserving this so you and your family can enjoy sweet corn all year long. Now this is Kate butter sugar sweet corn. I think that is the best sweet corn in the world, and it is what most of our farmers that go to the farmer's market grow. I picked this up today at the farmer's market. So this was freshly picked probably yesterday afternoon, and the taste is incredible, even just raw, but we're gonna take this over the top today. Now, I have shown preserving corn before. I have a couple of videos on that from last year, freeze drying, canning, putting it in the freezer. Today, we're gonna step it up a notch. I have plenty of canned corn still from the last 2 years of preserving it. So we're not going to do any canning today. What do you do with this much corn? Do you source corn from the farmer's market? Do you buy it in bulk? This is about 1/3 to 1/2 of what I usually put up each year, but I'm really excited because I decided to make my future Kelly Self life a little bit easier by pre-flavoring this into some really tasty side dishes and snacks. I'm going to be doing a butter garlic Parmesan corn. I'm going to be doing a Mexican street corn. I'm going to be doing just some cobs saved in the freezer for our annual birthday bash seafood boil. We will do plain as well for the freezer. And then I'm also going to be doing one sweet option because we can't leave that out. You absolutely do not want to miss this one. It came out so good. Timestamps are in the video. It's going to take me a minute to get all of these corns husked, and then we're going to cut the kernels off the cob, get them into some water and or into the oven for roasting. So we've got our work cut out for us, and I'm just going to get to it. I'm starting with an empty garbage can on the side of my table here so I can just put all of the husks in there. I don't save the husks. You can save the husks and you can compost the husks, but I am fairly certain that none of the corn vendors at my farmer's market grow organically, and they're probably sprayed pretty heavily with a pesticide, so I'm not going to be saving these husks or silks at all. They're just going to go into the garbage. Peeling corn is easy. You just want to split it at the top and grab onto those silks, kind of part it down the middle, and then just pull. It can be a messy job. My floor is going to be littered with silks and husks, but that's okay. It's an easy cleanup when we're done. So I'm just going to be setting these on the counter behind me as I whip through 52 ears. Now, because I have 52 ears of corn here, I'm going to save 4 on the cob. We're just going to blanch those and put them in the freezer, and I'll be able to use those for the big seafood boil that I do every year, because I'll cut those in half and that'll give us 8 pieces of corn. And that leaves me with 48 ears. And so we're gonna do each version using 12 ears of corn. And whichever one I like the best, or whichever few I like the best, I will likely go back to the farmer's market in the next week or 2 or 3. They're gonna have it until we get a frost. And I'll process more, because 48 ears of corn is not enough to get us fully through the season, other than using the canned corn that I have preserved in the pantry, which we do eat. It's not my favorite though, because canned corn does taste heavily processed, and you just cannot beat the flavor of freshly picked sweet corn. And I don't want to lose all that flavor in the canning process. And these are beautiful ears of corn. Absolutely stunning, which is another reason why I know these are sprayed, because they don't have any bugs or worms in them. I think last year, out of all the ears of corn I processed, literally only 1 ear had one tiny little worm in it. Some of the kernels at the top did not get pollinated, but that's okay. This is still going to be a ton of corn. I'm also thrilled to say that when I did go to the farmer's market today, I also picked up my half-pots. She had them. Now, unfortunately, she only had the most immature ones, the lighter green colored ones, but I took all she had, which was a bushel, 2 half-bushel boxes. And I got there just in the nick of time, because right after I bought those, they were still sitting on the back of her truck because I was filling up my bags of corn Somebody else came and asked for a bushel of them, and she said, sorry, there was only one bushel, and somebody already got to it. So she's not sure if she's going to have any more of those. It's just been a terrible year for peppers, but I will go next weekend. I'll keep going just in case she has them that are more mature, because I love them in all the different color stages. They start out that kind of lime green. You'll see that on next week's video, because I'm going to be doing some interesting things with those peppers. You don't want to miss that. They start out a lime green, and then they turn kind of a light orange, and then red, and they're so colorful. They're just gorgeous. And the flavor on them is truly amazing. They're a spicy pepper, but they've got a sweet note to them as well. I just love them. And since I only got one bushel, which really isn't a lot, we want more if we can get them. So I'll be doing those in multiple preservation methods as well. This one has a lot that didn't pollinate at the top, but again, that's okay. You can blanch the cobs and then pull the kernels off after you blanch them. But what I learned last year is that takes longer because you have to wait for the cobs to cool down before you can handle them and cut the kernels off. So I like to cut the kernels off first and then put them in boiling water for 4 minutes, take them out, lay them on just a big baking sheet just to let them cool and dry off a little bit before prepping them for the freezer. So that's what we're going to do today. What is your favorite way to preserve corn? Do you can it? Do you freeze dry it? Do you dehydrate it? Do you put it in the freezer? And if you do you pre-season it with anything? This is a beautiful ear. It's speckled with white and yellow kernels. It's full. They're all plump looking. This corn is so delicious. Again, that's Kate, K-A-T-E, Kate butter sugar, the best. If you can source this, you should try it. We're almost done. My garbage bag is overflowing at this point. A lot of husks. I think 50 is a good number to do. It gives you a lot of corn to put up, but it's not too overwhelming to do in one day. Luckily with corn, you can usually get it through the end of September, maybe even early into October. And I have not seen one pest on these, not one. Don't click away yet. This is where the real flavor magic starts. I'm gonna pick 4 ears that we're gonna set aside, and then we're gonna work with 12 cobs at a time once I get this cleaned up and reset. We are ready to get started. I have all of my corn husked. I also took it over to the sink and I gave it a really good rinse, and I pulled off as much of the silks as I could. I've picked out 4 beautiful ears that we're going to blanch just like this and freeze just like this. And this is 24 ears of corn here, and I have 24 ears behind me. I have a pot of water that I started with hot water in, so we're almost at a boil. And I have a bowl of cold water, and I've put some ice packs in here. I'll take the ice packs out once these kernels have been blanched so we can quickly get them cooled down to stop the cooking process. But blanching is an important step in corn preservation, because if you don't blanch your corn, there's an enzyme that will live on that will continue to degrade the color, the flavor, and the texture and the nutrients over time, even in your freezer or if you freeze dry it. So blanching is important, but it only takes a couple of minutes if it's already off the cob. These we're going to blanch for 6 minutes, and these we're gonna do for about 3, maybe 4 minutes. And then the other half is gonna get roasted in the oven. So I've got my oven now preheating to 400 degrees, and we are ready. I also have a sheet pan with a towel on it, so the kernels can go straight from the cold water bath onto here to just dry off. And I'm using the ice packs because my ice maker no longer works in my freezer, and I only have 2 ice cube trays that will fit in my freezer. So that's just an easier way for me to get cold really quickly, and I can just repeat it because I have more ice packs in the freezer. So I do have a corn decobbing tool here. It just makes quick work of getting corn off the cob. But if you don't have one of these, you can use 2 bowls, and that works really well too. Let me show you that really quick. So you're gonna want a sharp knife, and you're gonna want a small bowl turned upside down inside of a larger bowl. And what you would do is stand your corn up on the upturned bowl and then just slice down the cob. You don't want to go all the way to the cob, but you want to get as much of the kernel as you can. And then it just falls nicely into the bowl. And the bowl that's turned upside down also allows you to easily turn the corn. And then you can turn it upside down and do the same thing to get this little bit off the top here. Now usually I end up a sticky mess after doing corn. It's gonna be all over my face, all over my glasses, because this corn is juicy. Just know that. Just expect that if you're processing corn. Now, the corn cobs you can save if you would like to. You can make corn cob jelly out of that. Or corn cob syrup. I've made the syrup before. I think I mentioned last year that I made, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 pints of that. And I have yet to touch that. It's literally still in my pantry. It's probably time for me to just toss it because I don't think I'm ever going to use it. So with this tool, which I bought on Amazon, they're inexpensive and easy to use. You just hold the kernel and you just rake this across it and the kernels come off easily. So we're gonna be able to whip through this corn in no time. And since this is boiling now, I'm gonna put in these ears and we're gonna start a 6-minute timer. If they're smaller ears, you can do about 4 minutes, but since those were large, we're gonna do 6 minutes. Ooh, our oven is now preheated as well. We'll just get this out really quick. We'll dip it in the water over here. So that only took 6 minutes, and I've only got 3 more ears of corn on this first set of 24 cobs. I'm just going to finish these real quick and then we'll get to blanching. I did put the insert, the strainer insert, inside this stock pot here so I can easily lift all the corn out at once, drain it, and then we can get it into the cold water. I need a bigger bowl because we're losing corn. Or at least another bowl. Molly's playing little helper on the floor. She's getting the corn that is flying off onto the floor. She's a good kitchen helper in that way. All right, we're done with these. I'm gonna line my baking sheet that I've cleaned off with some parchment paper. We're just going to spread this onto the baking sheet. And we're probably going to have to use 2 or 3 sheets all together, because this is a whole lot of corn. This is going to go into the 400-degree preheated oven for about 20 minutes, but I'm going to flip the corn halfway through. Here is 1 sheet. Roasting is going to offer the same enzyme neutralization that blanching offers. So you can roast rather than blanch, and roasting is going to help caramelize the corn and intensify the sweetness, even though this corn does not need any enhancement to sweetness. But this is still how we're going to do this. Now, this is a very thick layer of corn, and I'm going to add the rest of it to this sheet. So we might go a little longer than 20 minutes. We'll just have to see. So both of these are going to go in the oven now. We have not yet started boiling in our pot, but we're getting close. I'm going to set a 10-minute timer on these so I can check them. And we can do 3 minutes on these now because this is now boiling. That's 3 minutes on the corn. So I'm going to pop that out. And this is the beauty of using the insert as a strainer. You can get all the corn out at once and let it drain for a minute before adding it into the cold water. And we have 4.5 minutes left on the oven before I check the roasted corn. So by the time the oven is done, this corn should be laid out and drying off. And I'm just putting it on a towel here because both of my big cooking sheets are now in the oven. Let's see how our corn looks after the 20-minute mark. It's looking good. We might not need much more time at all. We do want it to get just a tiny bit browned, which we are down here on the edges. So I think maybe 5 more minutes should do it. Let's check the other tray though. Yeah, this one's gonna need 10 more minutes. This one is thicker, so it's not roasting up quite as quickly as the other pan is. So this one we'll do for another 10. As long as we don't burn the corn, we're good. With our corn roasted and blanched, we now get to move on to the fun part, making and packaging up 5 different varieties of corn to enjoy over the winter months. I still need to use the oven for one final step, but the trays of corn, I did the shallower tray for an additional 10 minutes, and I did the fuller tray for an additional full 20 minutes. So that was double the cooking time. I just preheated my oven to 325, and I have some raw pecans here, about 1.5 cups. Now I want to break these into some smaller pieces because this is going to get tossed in with the corn. Wait until you see this when it's all said and done. And because these are raw, I want to get them toasted. And because I will be freeze drying some of this corn as well. So if you're interested in seeing how all of this comes out freeze dried, stay tuned for Friday's episode of Freeze Dry Friday. But because I'm doing that, I want to make sure that we toast these and get them to release some of their natural oils in the oven during the cooking process. And also because raw pecans or raw nuts can get just the texture's not very good freeze dried. So we're going to get these roasted. It shouldn't take too long, maybe about 10 minutes in the oven, and I will just flip through them about halfway through the cooking process. We are looking for them to be nicely fragrant and just a little bit browned on top, although pecans are already brown. These I keep in my freezer so they stay fresh a really long time that way, and I can pull them out to use them. I honestly think this bag is from 2020 or 2021. It was an 8-cup bag, and I've just passed the halfway mark on the bag. So these look great. These are ready to go in for about 5 minutes. I'm also going to start on my next recipe as well. So I'm going to get the pan onto about a medium heat, and we're going to melt a stick of butter. And to that, I have 4 large cloves of garlic that I crushed just to get the jackets off of them. And then we are going to mince that garlic right into the pan. And then I'm going to grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese in there as well. And then we're going to toss in the corn, and it's going to be delicious. We'll add a little bit of salt and pepper also. I know this looks like a lot of butter, but we have 12 cups of corn here. So I ended up with 24 cups of blanched corn from 24 ears, and half of it we're going to use in this recipe here. I turned that heat up a little bit just to hurry up and melt that butter. So I'm going to drop it back down, and now we'll get the garlic in. This recipe did not last long in my house. Most of it was gone before I could even finish filming. That smells incredible. Now I'm gonna just grate in some Parmesan cheese. The grate and not the shreds. Look at that. Oh, that just looks and smells absolutely incredible. We're gonna get this corn mixed in. I'm gonna turn the heat off though, because the corn is cooked. I'm gonna do a little more Parmesan cheese on the top when we're done. Just wanna make sure everything is mixed nicely so that corn has that garlic butter taste on every kernel. And this pan will maintain its heat for a little while. So that's just gonna help keep everything warm and melding. That is going to be a lot of garlic, butter, Parmesan corn. Yum. All right, I'm going to go in with a little salt and pepper and a little bit more of the Parmesan cheese. Salt and pepper is to taste. Add as little or as much as you'd like. This is 12 cups of corn. That was about a teaspoon, I think. We'll get a little bit more of that Parmesan in there. I'm doing about probably half a cup of Parmesan in all. Let's get those pecans out. Those are nicely toasted. Those have to cool completely before we use them because they will continue to release oils as they start to cool down, and we want all those oils released before they go into the freezer and or the freeze dryer. This smells incredible. So good. Let's give that a taste. Let's see. Wow. That is incredible. I'm going to put that right back into this bowl and we're going to set it aside until it cools down completely so we can package it up. This is going to make a weeknight meal so simple. This flavor is intense. It's delicious. That extra sweet corn paired with that garlic and the butter is insanely good. And the Parmesan just takes it right over the top. There's a black pepper flavor in here, which I really like. But again, you can put as little or as much in as you'd like. Barely taste the salt, but it is there. So it's not too salty of a dish. And now all we have to do is heat and enjoy this. And with this being 12 cups, we would probably do 2 cups per meal. So that is 6 meals out of this pan right here. We might even do 1 cup meals too. So we'll see how I decide to package that up. This will cool a lot faster if you spread it out on a baking sheet, but a lot of my baking sheets are in use right now, so we're just going to put it back in this bowl. We have a few other dishes to make, or flavorings to make, I should say. So we're done with that, and this is incredible. Total win. Next, we're going to be working with the large sheet of corn. We are going to make Mexican street corn out of this, and I'm going to show you how to make a homemade Tajin sauce to go with it. It's going to be super easy and incredibly delicious. Now, for Tajin, normally you would use a lime zest. I don't think I have any of that, but what I do have is freeze-dried lime powder, and this is the peel the pulp, everything. So I'm going to use this. It has all the essential oils in it that the zest would bring to this. So if you have freeze-dried lime powder, and I only have a little bit left, so I definitely have to make more of that. It came in a lot more handy than I ever expected it to. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, but I'm going to double this based on how much corn I have. So I'm going to do 4. Whoa, sorry. That's incorrect. Sorry. 4 tablespoons of chili powder. And then it would be 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, but I'm doubling, so I'm going to do 2. One tablespoon of the lime powder, so I'm doubling, and I hope I have 2 in here. Definitely need to do more citrus. There's 2. 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, but we're doubling, so I'm going to do 2. And I did not double the salt, sorry. And a half teaspoon of cayenne, but we're doubling, so I'm going to do a full. And this is homemade freeze-dried cayenne pepper. So those are the dry spices. Now to this, normally you would add some cojita, I think that's how you pronounce it, cheese, but I don't have that on hand, and I'm a big believer in just use what you have, use substitutions if you need to. So I'm going to use some freeze-dried Parmesan cheese. The recipe would be half a cup, but since we're doubling, I'm going to do a full cup. It's a little clumpy. There we go. And you should use, for a true recipe, some Mexican creme fraiche, but I'm going to use sour cream. You could also use mayonnaise, but because I'm going to be freeze drying some of this, I'd rather use sour cream than mayonnaise. So it would be half a cup, but we are going for a full cup to double the recipe. And this is my absolute favorite sour cream. It is tangy and wonderful. It is Nancy's probiotic sour cream. We want a full cup of that. And I'm using a big bowl because we got to mix all this with the corn. This is going to be an amazing side dish. Rethink your Taco Tuesday night. There, we got a full cup out of there. And you don't even have to do anything except pull it out of the freezer, or enjoy it as a freeze-dried snack, or rehydrate it after freeze-drying it. But that will be a Friday episode. And then I'm going to get all of that mixed together, blended well, and then we're going to toss it with the corn. It's going to be so good. Oh, a little bit of lime juice too, just a tiny splash. Maybe a tablespoon worth. And hopefully that will be enough to get this mixed well together. We'll give it a taste once it's mixed. It's pretty thick. You could also add some more lime juice or even just some water in here to thin this out. I might add a little bit of water, but let me give it a taste. That is incredible. Let me add just a little bit of water. I just want to make sure it coats on the corn well. And then we should have a consistency that would be more reminiscent of the bottled Tajin sauce. Now the smoked paprika in here is pretty powerful. If you don't like a smoky flavor, you could use regular paprika or leave it out. That looks really good. I'm going to do just a little bit more water. So that was less than half a cup so far. Maybe a third of a cup of water. The lime powder in here is pretty potent, so I didn't think I needed to add any more citrus juice. All right, let me taste that. A little more salt. So if you don't have the Tajin dry spice or the liquid seasoning, you can make your own. All right, let's start adding in some of this corn. This roasted up beautifully. You can tell by the bottom of the parchment paper. Am I brave enough to see if I can lift it by the parchment paper and dump it in, or is it going to break? It might hold. This would be great on top of salads. This would be great with tacos or burritos, on top of nachos, on top of a baked potato. So much flavor and goodness in here. You gotta be a spice lover though. This is mixing beautifully. That little bit of water did the trick. All right, let's give this a taste. Now I know that after freeze drying, this is going to be even more concentrated in flavor, but I think it's going to be good. Wow. Wow, that is incredible and incredibly flavorful. We'll see how that does after freeze drying on Friday, because that is pretty intense, but it's delicious. So I'm going to set this one aside and we're going to get to work on the last variation with flavor, the sweet one. For this next flavor and the last one, I wanted something sweet, and specifically I wanted to make it stable for the freeze dryer. I wanted to do a maple pecan butter corn, but maple syrup doesn't freeze dry well. So what I did was I turned 1 cup of maple syrup into maple sugar. And I'm gonna pop a clip in right here of how I did this earlier today. But I started with 1 cup of maple syrup, and now we have all of this amazing maple sugar. We're using a medium heat on this syrup, and we're stirring it constantly. By the time this gets to about 230, 240 degrees, you want to make sure that you're stirring it constantly. Don't let up on the stir. That's really important. That way it's going to heat evenly through. It's not going to burn, and it's also important for what's happening chemically in here too. The second that it reaches 260 degrees, you have to pull it from the heat, and that's why a thermometer is essential. I'm just using a regular thermometer, though a candy thermometer would be better. We're gonna pull it off the heat as soon as it gets to 260 degrees, and we are gonna continue to stir this. We cannot stop stirring. That is the most crucial step in making maple sugar from maple syrup. It happens during the cool down process with the liquid in constant motion. And that's going to take a few minutes. I think it took a total of about 6 minutes for me here. It's gonna feel like there's nothing happening, but all of a sudden you are gonna go from this thick liquidy syrup to a dry sugar in just an instant. It happens super fast, and it's gonna be a really, really hard sugar too. So you're gonna have to chisel it out of your pan, but it's fine. That is exactly what it's supposed to look like. Then you can pour that big clumps of sugar onto a parchment paper lined baking sheet and let it cool completely before we run it through a food processor so that we can have some finely ground maple sugar. This was so much fun to do. And some fun facts here. So maple sugar has been around for centuries. Native Americans were the first to boil down the sap into sugar long before white sugar was a thing. And turning syrup into sugar was originally done to make it easier to store and to transport. Because once it's dried into sugar, it's not going to spoil. And that makes it perfect for long-term storage in your pantry. And compared to refined white sugar, maple sugar actually has trace minerals in it: manganese, zinc, calcium, potassium. So while it's still sugar, you're at least getting a little nutrition along with the sweetness. Maple sugar has a stronger, more complex flavor than white sugar, so you get to use less of it, but still get a delicious sweet kick. Pound for pound, maple sugar is one of the most expensive natural sweeteners out there because it takes a lot of sap to make it. You need about 40 gallons of sap to end up with 1 gallon of syrup, and even more to end up with sugar. So no wonder maple sugar is such a prized ingredient, and now you know how to make it in your own kitchen. How fun is that? Stick around. You're gonna wanna see how this maple sugar turns out. And now we have all of this amazing maple sugar. Now I'm gonna drop this into my food processor because we need to get it into fine granules like sugar. So I just have the regular blade attachment in here. And this has been cooling. You don't want to do this while it is still warm after cooking it into a sugar. And we're going to go on a fairly low speed. I'll probably pulse this just to be sure that we don't overheat it, because heat can cause condensation, which would make this wet, and then it wouldn't work. So we're going to pulse. This one surprised me the most. Sweet corn that might just replace popcorn on movie night. Beautiful. That worked perfect. Oh, it smells so good. Maple sugar, homemade. So I'm going to pour the homemade maple sugar into a bowl here. Make sure we get all of that. And I did test this when it came out of the, when I cooked it, and this is incredible. It's not too sweet, and it's absolutely delicious. I'm going to mix that with the toasted pecans. We're just going to get that mixed through. And then we're going to get our last tray of roasted corn mixed in with this. I'm going to try to do the same thing by lifting the parchment paper and pouring it into the bowl. I'm just trying to get it away from all of the edges to start. This roasted up beautifully. We have just a little bit of caramelization on it. The corn is still a little bit wet, which is going to help this maple sugar stick to the corn. And then I'm just going to freeze it like that. And when we go to eat it, I can add the butter, and it's going to be amazing. I can see this being an incredible side dish for Thanksgiving or Christmas, some holiday or event where you would expect to have some sweets served with a meal. And we'll get that mixed through. This is coming together beautifully. This looks so good. With some warm butter poured over the top of this, come on. And I bet this is going to freeze dry and be an incredible movie snack. Better than popcorn. Better for you, too. Look at that. We have to give that a taste test. All right, let's give this a try. Now, I used the lesser amount of corn for this just because I'm not a very big sweets person. but I bet I'm going to thoroughly enjoy this. This just looks incredible. I have to show you this. The pecans are perfectly sized against the kernels of corn. That sugar has just melted into that corn. I mean, this looks incredible. With warm butter poured over the top of this, this is going to be insane. Look at that. All right, let's taste this one. A nice bite, a little bit of everything on it. Wow, that is incredible. I'm not a sweets person. This I would do again and again and again and again and again. This is so good. Now all we have to do is get everything packaged up. I'm absolutely gonna start with freeze dryer trays because I wanna make sure we get this tested in the freeze dryer. So if you are interested in seeing how this does come out freeze dried, be sure to watch Friday's Freeze Dry Friday episode. And as I mentioned, I will be going back to the farmer's market for more corn. And depending on which of these we like the best, those are the ones I'll do more of once I get more corn, both for the freezer and for the freeze dryer. I think that is probably a pretty good batch to start with in the freeze dryer, maybe a little bit more, because I have a feeling this is going to be insanely good. Yeah, there we go. That is perfect. Next, we're going to do our garlic butter Parmesan corn. Now, butter, it does not freeze dry well. It is all fat and therefore is a risk for going rancid. However, little husk there. This will be a quick snack. This won't go into long-term storage. I just think that this would be another perfect snack to have while you're watching a movie, while you're relaxing, late night before you go to bed and just feel like having something crunchy and delicious. So this will get stored in glass for snacks, assuming it comes out delicious, which I think it will. Garlic butter Parmesan corn, come on. And now for our Mexican street corn. I have a feeling this one is going to be quite overpowering once it's freeze dried. We'll see. I think what I'll do is I'm going to do half of a tray here with it like this, and then I'm going to rinse it a little bit and do half of a tray that doesn't have quite so much seasoning on it, because this is a really thick layer of seasoning and the seasoning is strong. It's delicious, but it's strong. So I just put water in here and then rinse the water, or let the water drain off. And this still has a lot of seasoning on it, but not as much. So I think this one will taste better freeze-dried, because, you know, everything freeze-dried is just so much more concentrated in flavor. Mexican street corn. And last but not least, we have our blanched corn. Nothing added to it, just corn. And because this is the butter sugar corn, the Kate especially butter sugar corn, it doesn't need anything. It's going to be incredible as a dry, crunchy snack or rehydrated into a side dish. Anything that I'm putting on freeze dryer trays today can be rehydrated, except maybe the maple sugar pecan one. I'm not sure about that one. Maybe we'll see what we can do with that on Friday. But freeze-dried sweet corn is so good, just dry and crunchy. It's also a great way to preserve corn to use as rehydrated corn. Plain corn. One afternoon in the kitchen and a winter variety pack of different flavor farm fresh corn. Now for the cobs, I went ahead and just put those in a Ziploc bag. These will be fine in the freezer. These are going to get used this month. So I'm just packaging them like this. And for everything else, we're going to use the foodsaver. I had to make bags, so I went ahead and I labeled the bags as well. For the elote, or the Mexican street corn, I took about 75% of it out of the bowl and put it in a colander and rinsed off a lot of the spice. It was just a lot. I'm leaving it as is on the freeze dryer tray because I think that once it's freeze dried, a lot of that spice is gonna fall off anyway. I could be wrong, but this is much better. I probably should not have doubled that recipe. One of the Tajin recipes probably would have sufficed, or at most 1.5. So don't double it. It's really thick and a little overpowering. So with my bags made, I'm just going to get these freezer, ready. I think this elote would pair perfectly with chili or cornbread. It just has such smoky, delicious flavor to it. Excellent on tacos, in burritos, or burrito bowls. I'm really looking forward to this. I did lose a lot of the corn already. It just smelled so good that it was requested for dinner. So we did lose quite a bit of the garlic Parmesan, which seems to be a new family favorite, as well as some of the maple pecan one. And for the maple pecan, by the way, I think the only way to make that any better, because it is phenomenal, I think that's the best tasting corn I've had in decades. I would recommend maybe just adding some cooked and crispy bacon in there. I think that that would just take it over the top. I did 1.5 cups per, because that is a good size for my family for a meal. Now I am an absolute sticky mess. I need to take a shower. But I knew that would happen, which is one of the reasons I wore the heavy duty apron today. All the corn, except for the elote, needed to be bagged up on moist mode. There was a lot of fluid that was pulled out of it. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna wash these bags because now they're pretty sticky with either a garlic butter sauce or a maple sugar sauce. But these came out fabulous. I am thrilled with my yield, and I will be doing this at least once more, if not twice more, because I usually process between 100 and 150 ears of corn a year. If you found value in today's video, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing so you don't miss future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Sunday Fun Day, where I showed 5 ways of preserving farm fresh corn while it's in peak season. We have blanched cobs of corn. We have just blanched sweet corn. We have garlic parm corn. This is amazing. We have the pecan maple sugar corn, also incredibly amazing. And then we have the Mexican street corn, or elote. Super excited that I did this year. Normally I would can, I would freeze dry just the corn. Now we've added some flavor variety that's going to make weeknight meals so simple. Now, the garlic parm and the maple pecan are a huge hit already. I'm definitely going to be doing more of that. If I do more of the plain corn, I will probably lay it flat on a cookie sheet after blanching or roasting it, and then freeze dry or freeze the kernels that way, so I can, once they're frozen, I can just put them in a Ziploc bag and scoop out as much as I want. But these are easy, just grab and thaw meal starters right here. So which recipe do you think you would like the best? Plain sweet corn, garlic parm, pecan and maple sugar, or the Mexican street corn, also known as elote, or cobs. My name is Kelly. You're at A Better Choice Homestead, where we try to make a better choice for our health, our wallet, and our future every day. Thank you so much for joining, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.